All right, I think we have got a good group of folks here who are joining us, so we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Dawn McFadden, and I am the co-chair of the Small and Solo section of the Cleveland Bar Association for just about another month, when we'll be handing it over, our roles over to our new section leader. But today I'm really happy to be introducing, and I'll be hanging out today with Ken Fanger, who is with On Technology Partners. We reached out to Ken because obviously we've all had to switch our lives a little bit and are living a lot more remotely than we were in the past. And we thought Ken might have some really good information to share with us. And I think what he's sharing with us today is very helpful. Obviously, the importance of keeping our client information confidential and just all of our information as secure and confidential as possible is incredibly important to all of us. So this is the third of three small and solo presentations we did where we broke up our May half-day CLE. But I'm really excited right now to introduce Ken Fanger, and I'm just going to turn this over to him. If you do have questions, feel free to share that either in the Q&A or chat down at the bottom of the section. And I think that's it. Ken, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Dawn. Hi, my name is Ken Fanger, and I am the president of On Technology Partners. We have been a technology solution company for the past 30 years, so I've been doing this for quite a while. And I hopefully will be able to share some of the stories of some of the things that have happened in my career related to cybersecurity and safety and how it might affect you and your clients, especially if you work with small business clients. And again, I like these presentations to be back and forth as much as possible. So if you do have questions, please share them. I will try and stop. We will try to get through all of the information. But most important is you understand and feel comfortable. And today, let's talk about what we're going to cover. The first thing we're going to talk about is multi-factor authentication and how that matters and what that is and how that can affect your clients. Let me take actually a second here and kind of give you an example that many of you probably currently use for multi-factor authentication. And that is if you have a bank account and you log in online, you'll usually get a text that has a number associated with it. That is what's called two-factor authentication. What you have to have is you have to have an email and a password. In addition to that password, you have to have another method that assures that technology is coming from you. So in the case of Microsoft, depending on the version of Microsoft, it can either be a text, or on the more enhanced security, it's actually where you have the system will have an authentication account that will require you to confirm it through a number that changes every 60 seconds. So in multi-factor, it could be three-factor, it could be two-factor. Most of us are doing two-factor, but if it's really secure needed, you can move up to 3- and 4-factor authentication. The next thing we're going to talk about is DLT, data loss prevention. And this talks about the fact that if you lose client information, whether it is hacked or it is just lost by negligence or mistake, you're still going to be responsible for that. In Hipaa, that's a big issue. Obviously, somebody hacking the information, you have to worry about what they do with it. But if you have a client's contract and you're going to court that day and you lose it and they don't have it, that could be a major problem. And that could not result necessarily from any type of hacking. It could be a human mistake. It could be a failed hard drive. It could be a lot of things that cause lost data. We'll talk about Teams today. I'll actually do a demo of how Teams works. Every single one of the Microsoft products that we're going to show you today includes the Teams environment, and they are doing upgrades constantly. They've moved to having 9 pictures on screen. Many of you might be using Zoom right now, but you could be using Teams and it's included free. And then we're going to talk about why you need to make sure that you are backing up Office 365. That's part of the data loss prevention plan that you should have, and what Microsoft actually is telling you to do. And then we're going to talk about email encryption. I actually had several of the lawyers that I talked to ask about this, and there are certain things you can do with email encryption, and we'll go into some of the things that Office 365 lets you do to automate that email encryption, so that you aren't sending information in open text, which is how email sends it normally. Okay, so I always start my conversations with the question, why do you do it? Why do you care about security? Why is it an issue? Why does it matter if you are keeping your information protected? And I'm sure as lawyers, you know this better than me, but it comes down to what information you're actually protecting. If you're just sending out an email for the company picnic, you don't really need protection. But if you're sending out information related to a giant deal or somebody's life or somebody's medical condition, you have to go through the effort of protecting it. And the first thing is reputation and legal consequences. So if you're a doctor's office and you have a breach and you don't do anything about it, you could end up having to pay Hipaa fines. If you are a lawyer and it's found out that you have been hacked and you've lost all your information, you may find clients are not as comfortable working with you. So the legal concerns and your reputation are major steps in why you want to be looking at your security and what security steps you can take. The next thing is hacking. If you do have an opportunity and it's with, small clients, this may not be as active, but if you're working with a BP, when I was at BP years ago, I remember that there was a cyber attack group that went after us during the oil embargoes, and they were sharing information about emails. We all remember a couple of years ago, the email scandal with the presidential election. So having somebody hack in and take your emails and sharing them could be devastating depending on what information is getting shared. And again, loss of confidential information, that's part of the DLP. You may not accidentally lose it. I mean, you may not have it stolen, it might just be lost. You could also have accidental encryption. Or we had one situation where somebody lost their code key to get into an encrypted file and they couldn't get it back. So you need to think about what security you're doing, why you're doing security, and what steps you're taking to mitigate loss. And then this is kind of a new one that people don't think about. That's where this picture I have today, it's called Zoom bombing. It's where people jump into your online meetings and they weren't supposed to be there. Now this one is just a cute one with a clown, but unfortunately, some of you probably saw the article on the school that was doing a class and somebody Zoom bombed it with sexually explicit materials. So it is a concern. You do want to make sure that you're using passwords, but if you do use Zoom password feature and you leave the code in the link, people can still get that link. You do want to use waiting rooms and other ways to manage who is coming into your meeting so you don't get surprise visits from clowns or much worse. I'm going to take a quick second to see if there's any questions before we go on to the next step. Let's see, how do I see the chat?
Ken, no questions yet.
Okay, so I wanted to again go over some of the terms that you need to know. The first one is encryption. So encryption is the process of making some type of data unreadable. And how it works is you have what's called a public and private key. So think of this, when you were young, you might use where you change letters. And if you knew it was like each third letter, you could unencrypt the message, as it were. On computer terms, there's hashing algorithms that are used that make it very complex to figure out what is inside of an encrypted item. The latest is the 256K, means 256,000 different combinations, because unfortunately the 128,000 combinations can be hacked very easily. So as this goes forward, what you have is this kind of war between the hackers and the protectors trying to make more and more complex security. There's also one other thing you need to know. There are 2 times when you need to have encryption. There's encryption at rest. And what that means is, let's say it's on your hard drive. If you have information on your hard drive that you know is private and needs to be secure, you may want to encrypt it. And encrypting it on your hard drive is what's called encrypting at rest. So if you ever are talking to a backup company, you need to make sure that they keep their information encrypted at rest. But then you also have encryption on transit. And what that is, so when you send an email, that email goes off onto the internet and then travels over through a whole bunch of different portals to your email server. Then it travels from there over to your client's email server. While it's in transit, if it's not encrypted, anybody can literally grab it and look at it. And the standard for email is that it is not encrypted by default, which is why we're going to talk about why you want to use email encryption if you're sending items that you need to make sure are secured. Data prevention loss. This is a big one because it goes beyond security and talks about protecting the information. I'm sure we've all heard about where there was these ransomware attacks on cities and all of the data got encrypted and they had to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines because they did not have a proper way to recover it. Whoops, I don't know if that means we have somebody. Other written materials. There are materials that I can send you. I did not write up a written document, but I think we are going to be sending this PowerPoint presentation out at the end.
And Ken also is going to chat about a book that he also has available if people would like, and you can just shoot him an email, but he'll talk about that later.
Yes, so I'll mention that. It's something that helps with small business from the federal government. So when you're thinking about data loss prevention, you need to think beyond just securing the data. You need to think about how you back it up, how you can recover it, and how much loss you can accept. And we had talked about multi-factor authentication. So when you're doing this, you do want to think about how is it you can make sure, and one of these things that I know, like in Facebook, you want to be careful that you don't give out your password. But that's not enough if you want to make sure things stay secure. You need to have a second level of protection. I do want to take a second and talk about biometrics. Phones have been moving more towards this. Your laptop, in Windows, you have the hello. It will do a thing like look and see if it's your face. So those are called biometrics. They're a way to be much harder to be able to actually copy and break into a person's account. Obviously, right now, face recognition is being hampered by masks, but it is something you want to kind of think about with any type of device you're using. Now, I want to talk about the difference between journaling, archiving, and Ediscovery. So archiving is the process of taking active email and putting them into a long-term storage. Journaling is the process of tracking everything that happens in your email. And then Ediscovery and legal hold has to do with how you can recover the information. And the reason why I wanted to make sure I bring up journaling versus archiving is most email backup solutions are an archive type of solution where they will store the information, but they only do it 1, 2, 3 times a day. So if you have a person that does something illegal or inappropriate, but they delete it before that next backup, you may not have a copy of that. But if you're doing journaling, you would have a copy of everything, even if they delete it. And I want to kind of take and tell a story of something that actually happened when I was working for a client that was a pharmaceutical company. So we had a person who said that they were being sexually assaulted. We had been they went in, they had deleted all of their emails, cleared out their deleted box, wiped out everything. But we had backup copies of those emails. So we were able to restore them, and what we found out was the person had intentionally lied, had sent a friend of theirs on the company email that they were going to get back at this company because they were angry that they were getting laid off. And because we were able to recover those emails, we obviously gave it to the lawyers and were able to put the company in a much better position than they would have been if we had not had that type of stuff. So when you're looking at it, if you are working and you need to make sure that every email that is sent, you need to make sure that you have a journaling backup. You have some way of recovering that. And the nice thing about Office 365 is you can activate a legal hold and everything from that point forward will not be deletable. So you can recover it if you need to do an e-discovery onto those items. So one of the things, if you hear that one of your clients is having a problem, they have a concern with an employee, and they're on Office 365, you can suggest to them to activate that legal hold, and it starts journaling every email that comes through.
And that's just a standard feature. That's something any of us who has 365 can just turn that on and off at will?
Yes, that comes with every version of Office 365 that we'll talk about today, because there's hundreds of Office 365 products, but any of them that have the email feature with it have that functionality. Okay, now I don't know if you guys have this problem. I have this problem where there are so many acronyms, I don't always know what the acronyms stand for. So I thought I'd give just a couple of the compliance acronyms. I know most of you probably already know these, but they are good to have if somebody ever asks. First one is Hipaa. I've been hearing a lot about Hipaa relative to the mass, so it's good to know what that is. Obviously, that's the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. High tech, some of you may not know this, but high tech is actually the information standard for the health industry. It goes in tandem with Hipaa, but it is very specific. It talks about what disclosures you need to do, what compliance you need to do, what standards you need to meet. I wanted to bring this one up because I've actually have been working with Cleveland Public Power on their security standards. And so we are working with the NERC SIP compliance. And there are lots of different security standards out there. It can get overwhelming what you need to do. Of course, this one is a big one that almost every company has to be concerned with if they take any type of credit card payments or bank transaction payments. And this one is actually a European standard, but more and more it is becoming implemented in different state and federal security standards. The General Data Protection Regulation, the biggest piece of this, and this has been very frustrating for a lot of companies, is it says that if a client does not want you to have their data, you have to prove that you have removed all references to them from your database. So that, for something like Facebook, that was a pretty major requirement. And I have a story here that I want to share. I saw this story just on Friday, and it was about a grandmother in Holland that had been ordered to remove her grandchildren's pictures from Facebook. And the reason why she had to remove her grandchildren's picture was because the mother was not comfortable with that information being there. And the grandmother had decided she was not going to give that up. She wanted to be able to show her grandchildren. And she took her to court, and the grandmother lost. And so all references to her grandchild had to be removed from her Facebook. So this is an example of where these laws can be very directly related to even personal. And we need to be aware of that as we're going out there and doing these different things with our clients. If you're a company and you're collecting data, you need to be prepared for the possibility that you're going to have to be able to wipe that out if a customer comes back and says, I don't want you to have any of my information anymore. So as these become more standard, you need to be prepared for that. And there are some ways in Office 365 to meet all of these different requirements. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is Microsoft has hundreds of products, and they're changing their product suite. And they just did a major change last month, which is an interesting time given the virus to do this, but they changed the name of all of their products. So if you had an Office 365 Business Essentials account, that changed. Business Premium changed. So what I want to do is I want to go through what most likely you guys either have bought or would be interested in buying and what some of the differences are. So the first one is now Microsoft Business Basic. And that is the one that has email, OneDrive, SharePoint, and has basic level security. It does have two-factor authentication, but it is very basic. The Microsoft Business Standard has everything Business Basic has, and it gives you the Word, Excel, PowerPoint applications. So this one is actually the one they sold the most of. This next one is one that you might be interested in. It is the Microsoft Business Premium, and this has an enhanced security. So this actually has encryption built into it for email, and it has what they call smart encryption. So if you are working in the financial industry, you could have it where it can automatically find social security numbers and encrypt it, so you don't have to go through the effort of saying encrypt or bracket, subject bracket. You can pick things that make it unique. Hipaa compliance, similar things. If there are medical record items, it can auto encrypt that stuff for you. And there are third-party packages that can do that for some of the basic and the standard if you'd like that as well.
Ken, we should probably already know it, but if we don't, where would I go on my Microsoft 365 to see which one of these I have?
That's a good question. So what you would do, let me go out here and show you. Where did my, so you would go to office.com and it would log you into your Office portal, and then you would go to admin. And you have to have admin rights to do this. And then under the admin, you can go over to billing. You can go to licenses. And then it will show you which licenses you have.
Okay.
So like we have E3 licenses for every one of our employees, which we'll talk about here in a second. And then you can also go here to see which ones, by going to users, you can see who has which licenses. And I'll show you right here. So if you're using Office 365, you can see what license you have. Like we have the phone system, and you can apply multiple licenses to people. So this is an E3 license deployed. Okay, good question. Now, then after that, you start to get into what are called enterprise class licenses. Enterprise class licenses have higher levels of security. So the authentication becomes more strict. The control becomes more strict. The big areas where you'll notice it is you can use Authenticator instead of just a text dual authentication or multi-factor authentication. And again, E1 is enterprise class 1. It does not give you the applications, but it does all the other security pieces. The other nice thing is when you get into the E1, you can use it to log into your laptop, so you can control Windows environments through your E1 application as well. And the same is true with E3. And then if you really need a high level of security, you have Microsoft 365 E3, and that gives you security at the level of being able to actually control individual cell phones. So if your company has a bring your own device rule, you can use Microsoft 365 E3 security, and then you can lock down that even if they open up a file, they cannot share it without your permission, they can't forward it. And that's one of the things we'll talk about when we talk about what OneDrive and SharePoint are, how those things can be locked down. Now that's a very advanced level. I don't think that's something you would do on your own. You would talk with a company like ours to help you get that set up. But if you really have very stringent security standards, the Microsoft 365 E3 would be where you'd probably want to be. But for most of you and most of your clients, the Business Premium would probably meet all the security standards you would need. Okay.
Ken, one last question on that. Is there a standard per user fee for each of those three?
Yes, I have that pricing at the end.
Perfect, thank you.
I mean, yeah, so I'm going to show everybody the pricing and then some of the additional services pricing. And I also talk about if you buy it through us, you get a flexibility that you don't get through buying it directly from Microsoft. And I'll explain all of that when we get to that pricing. Okay, so I just wanted to talk about what are some of the standard features in Office 365. These come with all of the different service or packages that I talked about, but they don't come with like encryption. So every single one of them will come with email and calendaring, but only the business premium and the Microsoft 365 E3 come with encryption. You do get Teams, you get collaboration, you get chat, you get video conferencing. You do get 1 terabyte of file sharing space. And we'll talk about how you can use file sharing, and I'll actually tell you a story about how my lawyer and I just did it last week to get a contract together for a potential client. And you have group collaboration. We'll go into some details on that as well. Yeah. So let's see how to actually do it. We're going to give you a live demonstration of OneDrive and of Teams. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is if you have Office 365 today, all you need to do this is go to office.com and log in. And this is what you'll see, and you'll just click on OneDrive. So when I use OneDrive, it allows me to be able to have all of my files synchronized across all of my devices, whether it's a phone, a laptop, a desktop, tablet. So I'm able to take my tablet with me when I go on trips, but I can still get to all of my documents. In fact, I had a client who was using OneDrive, and she was out in Hawaii on vacation, and a client called her and said that they needed a document immediately. She was able to go onto her OneDrive, pull the document, and forward it right there for them. But now for you guys, there is some difference in what you do with your OneDrive. So let me come over here. We don't need to be in the administration portal. So what I want to do is I'm going to go into my OneDrive and talk about how you can use this to share. Oh, and one thing that you won't notice, which is really nice if you want to do it, we do have multi-factor authentication on every single one of our accounts. So if you don't have, and Microsoft has intelligent login, because I've said that this laptop is a secure laptop, it does not prompt me to do dual authentication every single time I log in. So if you are, but the first time I logged into this, I did have to do dual authentication. So if you log on to a new computer, you're off at a hotel and you do something which I would recommend not doing, but you use a hotel computer to get to files, it will ask you 1 for your password and then 2 for your phone authentication. So even if somebody came in there and got onto it afterwards, they would not be able to get in and access your files because you get a notice saying, did you try to log on or you need to log on. So what I wanted to show here is how to share a file. So here's a document that I want to share. All you need to do, and we're going to show you how to do this both in Office 365 and from your computer if you're using the syncing feature. So what I want to do is I want to click on Share. And now this is where you need to be very careful. You'll notice that this link says, anyone with this link can edit it. You probably don't want to do that with legal documents or other items. So you probably you can pick to only have people in your organization, people that you've already given access to, or if you're sending it to a client, probably specific people. And you notice after I do that, you have allow editing. So if you just want them to see this document, but not be able to change it, you would turn off allow editing. And you can even block it so it cannot download. So if you just want to send a contract for them to review, but not actually change, you can use this through specific people, don't allow editing, and block download, then they cannot download it. And then if you click apply, you come back here, and just type in their email address. You can send them a letter, notice that will go along in the email. And then you can just click on send. So now they can view it, they can't download it, they can't change it. So you can say, yes, this is right, or no, or whatever you need. Then you can just click on send and it sends it. If you do allow editing, you can again send this. If you do have an open link that you're sending, you can put a password onto it. You can even set an expiration date. I'd recommend if you're sending an open link, you just had to do something quick and talk to somebody quick and it wasn't secure information, you do set an expiration date so that you can control it. So you can go in here, let's say I'm going to give them a week and a half. So that allows you to control who can get to the link. So if you do need it to be shared with multiple people at some point, the nice thing is if you use the specific people, every time they try to open it, Office will send an email with a code that they need to use to open it to the email address that you gave them. So when I had kenlucy@att.net, if I tried to open this document with that link, it's going to send another email saying, here's the code. They have to put that code in to be able to get into it. So that gives you that level of control that you need. Like I said, with Office 365, you get the ability to do co-editing. So I was working with my lawyer to put together a e-commerce contract, and we actually worked on the contract together right out of Office 365. So if you are working with somebody and you do need to do co-editing, maybe you need to be like, okay, on Article 3, I needed to say this, you have it say this, you could do it right with them and they can see the changes as you're doing them. Any questions on how to share and how to do sharing securely? Okay.
Ken, I'm sorry, I'm gonna ask one question. If I was doing this from my iPad or my iPhone, any significant differences in how you would do that?
Not significantly. You would do the same thing. You would go to the 3 ellipses, click on share, and you'll get the same options. So yes, if you're doing it from an iPhone, I use an iPhone and I do this all the time. You can just go in. Now you do have to download the OneDrive app on your iPhone and iPad, where Microsoft builds it into the operating system, but it's not that hard to do. It is a free download and it's very easy. And one thing I do want to kind of mention to you while we're doing this, because it's worth noting, it is very easy once you have the OneDrive app on your Apple, or if you're in Windows, all you need to do is click on this sync button and it will synchronize this right to your desktop or right to your computer. So, and I want to show you that and talk to you about what some of these things mean and why they're important. But you can do, if you notice, it's the exact same thing. There is that document. So I could right click on this document and whoops. I'm bringing it down. I don't need to open it. There it goes. Okay, my computer is being bad. Normally, you would have the same option to share right out of here, and you can share directly out of Word and Excel the same way. But for some reason, I'll have to check. For some reason, my OneDrive is being temperamental. So if you do have a situation where you can't share it from your local computer, you can go on to office.com and share it right from there. And then some of these things that I think are definitely worth mentioning. Now, these are not necessarily security issues so much as functionality issues, but you notice that there are different little icons. One looks like a cloud, one looks like a checkbox. And then if I right click on this, okay, maybe not that one. Why is this not? For some reason, it's not giving me, so I'll have to look and see. But normally when you right click on it, you get requested if you want to make it available. The differences here are the cloud version means that it is only up on the cloud. So you're not taking up space because you're getting a terabyte of space. But like on your iPhone or your iPad or my Surface, I don't have a terabyte of hard drive space to have everything on my OneDrive kept locally. So I can have it set where it moves most of the items up to the cloud. And you notice that little circling thing means that it's currently doing an update to the cloud. If you see a cloud, it means it's not local. If you see a checkbox, it means there's a copy local. If you're going on a flight and you're not going to have internet access, you probably want to make sure that you download any files you want because you won't be able to get to them. But this is very helpful in making sure that you are saving space and being able to manage the files you need as you have synchronized files. So this is how you tell when it will guarantee to be down. You'll see that green check, that green check with a white box will turn into a white check with a green box. Okay, any quick questions on how this works? And you do notice that it does keep everything synchronized. One other thing, and this does fall under the data protection loss, is you can actually pull up previous versions of documents. So if I made a change today, if I go in here, now there'll be two versions of this. You can actually, if you have those enhanced Office, you can open it up in Word. I like Word personally better. I'm going to close this, and if all goes well, you just see now there are two versions of that history. So I don't know if any of you have ever done this. I've done this. I'll use an old contract to create a new contract. So I'll open it up in Word, and I'll make my changes, maybe wipe out the other one completely, and then I'll save it, and then I'll realize I forgot to actually change it and do a save as. So this way, you can go back and recover those previous versions. And if you're doing in multi-editing, you can go back to previous versions as multiple people are editing in these things. So it gives you a way to step back anything you do. So I know I've gotten proposals from some people, and on the bottom of the proposal, it has the name of another person, which means to me that they were doing a cut and paste and forgot to save in the right place. So if you ever do that, this view history is a great way to recover it. If you're working with a team and you're working on a document, if you want to go back to a previous version, you can use this as well. Okay, and again, if you want to synchronize, all you have to do is click on synchronize. And for some reason, my Office is not running, but I'm not going to fix that now. So normally when OneDrive is running, you'll see it over here. Okay. Any questions on this before I go on? Okay.
No questions yet.
Good. I'm either doing
folks,
really good.
Yeah, folks should definitely feel free if you are having other questions to share them in the chat.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about Teams. Teams is more than just video chat. I think most people think of it as video chat. It has a lot of functionality, especially if you are a small office of lawyers, 2 or 3, and you might work on cases together. It has a lot of function and value for you. Again, to get to any of your Office 365 applications, you just type office.com. It'll show you all the available applications. In this case, you click on Teams. It's going to ask you, the first time you click on it, if you want to install the app. I say you should do that. The app works better than the web version, but you don't have to install the app. So now what I want to do is I want to, whoops, and there's the pricing. Sorry, give me a second. I want to come over here to my actual teams. So in Teams, you have several different options. And I was talking about the value of Teams. So Teams has a built-in chat. And you can see we already have company team meeting, company-wide chat. We have a tech group chat, an editor group chat. And to do these, all you need to do is whoever's in your team that you want to chat with, you can just start typing their name. And then if you want, you can actually give it a group name. And you can use that later to filter and find things. So this is how you can go through and create really quick chats if you want to. So, and again, if you install the Teams app on your phone, it'll pop up on your phone and tell you that you have a chat. It'll send you emails reminding you that you have chats going on. So it's a great way to keep in touch. We use it to do quick questions. It works better than email for us because I get hundreds of emails a day, and sometimes it takes me a few days to get through everything, but I get the chats instantly. So this is a chat functionality, comes right out of Teams for you. Now I do want to take a few minutes and talk about this. So this is what's actually called Teams. So if you do have a group of lawyers and paralegals that are working on a project together, you can create a team environment for that case or whatever. It'll create a file space. So you notice I created this one, Wednesday Fun Day. This one I did to use when we were doing our weekly presentations. And so it automatically gives you this file location. And you can store files, you can work together. And when you create this, you can build who is on this team. So if I go here and I manage team, so only myself and Michael are in this team. So nobody else will be able to see these files. So if there's 7 lawyers in a law firm and 2 of them are working together on a new land deal, you could put all of the files and everything in here, have it, and only those 2 people. Now, if all of a sudden a 3rd lawyer joins, you could easily add him to that. So I could add a 3rd member to that. And that way, you can also remove members. So I don't want backup in there. So that way you can add and take people out of a team depending on the need. So it's a great way if you have a small set of lawyers that are working on things together to kind of segment out what people need to get to and what they don't. And it gives a great way to interact. And one thing that I tell people, and I actually really enjoy this, is it comes with a planning tool. So all you need to do is after you've created a team, you click on this plus button, and you're going to look for Microsoft Planner. And then in Microsoft, you just click on that, and then it would open up a plan, and you can rename it. And then you can add tasks to it. So if you're working and you want to make sure that the secretary reaches out to a client or something like that, you can put in a task here, set the date that it has to be done, pick the person that has to do it, or people, you can have multiple, then you can add the task. Now this will send an email to me telling me that I have this. I can put the priority, I can put the due date, I can put what date it started if it's a longer project. I can put different descriptions. Whoops, I guess I should hit enter first. You can even have it show those up there. And very quick, easy way to manage tasks that you have to get done And it's all part of all of the Office 365s that we're talking about.
Now, when you're using Teams, are you using that predominantly for communications with folks at your company, or are you also using it with clients?
You can use it with clients. There's a couple of extra setup steps that are a little more complex to do that, but you can have clients join in with your Teams if you've authorized that. By default, Microsoft does not let anyone but your own organization into a Teams environment, except for the video conferencing, which you can invite anybody to join a video conference.
There is another question about removing metadata from all documents, but I don't know if we want to wait that until you're done with the Teams discussion.
Sure, we can. Yeah, let me finish the Teams discussion quick, and then we can kind of go into that as well. Okay. So the other nice thing about Teams is it is integrated into the entire Office 365 suite. So you can see, this is my actual calendar. And you can click on Meet Now. I'm not going to join it because it's going to try and grab my camera. But you could click on this and then send out email invites to your team to join you. Or you can create a new meeting, and you have two options under New Meeting. Most of you will probably just use Schedule a Meeting. A live event will actually let up to 10,000 people watch it. Most of us don't need to use that, but it does come. Now that's an E1 feature, not a small business feature, but if for some reason you need it, it is available. When you schedule a meeting, you can add recipients here. It'll find ones that are in your organization. Or you can add external people as well. And then you can send this out. I'm going to take her off so she doesn't get an email. And I think I just did this. So that's how you can create a quick meeting in Teams.
And Ken, if the person receiving that invite is not already a Microsoft person, do they need to set up a Microsoft account, or can they just attend by clicking the link?
They can just attend by clicking the link, and they'll go to an online version of Teams.
Okay.
So I also have, if anybody is interested, a video that goes through doing Teams meetings, which I would be glad to send out to anybody that's interested in that. Yeah. And again, the nice thing is this is all synchronized. So when I put it here, it also goes onto my Outlook calendar. So it keeps everything in sync. And the other nice thing is it sends you this link. So you can go to your calendar and pull out this link. And then you can just email this link to customers or to your clients as you need as well. So if you don't put them into the meeting invite, you can just take that and send it to them. It does, by default, Microsoft does require that you have a waiting room. If for some reason, whoops. I will have to look up how to delete all metadata. I haven't been asked to do that before. So I will find out an answer to that question for you. Okay, I will.
Can I ask a meetings question?
Sure.
We've all been, and you referenced the issue with Zoom bombing going on. Has that been as much of an issue with Teams, or not, because of the waiting room requirement?
It has not been. I haven't heard people complaining. I think people aren't looking for Teams. It's one of those things where being a little more obscure is a sort of protection. Obviously, if you get the link, you always want to be careful who you invite into your Teams meeting. But because of how Teams work, it assumes everybody not in your organization is an outsider. So it treats them as an outsider for security reasons. Where Zoom, you don't have that same type of thing. So they've made other improvements to this, but there is definitely more openness to how you can get into Zoom.
Okay. And a question came up a minute ago saying, is this calendar, so I'm thinking the calendar in Teams, different than the Outlook calendar? And you're saying they sync. Is it a different calendar that syncs with Outlook, or is it the same calendar?
It is the exact same calendar. So
Okay.
it is what you see in your Teams calendar is also what you see in Outlook. And unfortunately, I think my Outlook will take a little while to load, so I'm not going to do that. But if I had my Outlook open and I showed you this, you would see the exact same thing in my Outlook calendar. So that's one of the big advantages of Office 365 is everything is integrated. So it also, you know, it'll tell you if somebody has a conflict, if there's an issue or a problem, because it is integrated. Now, I will tell you, Microsoft is giving away Teams free for 4 more months. I recommend not using that, which is kind of a weird thing to say, I guess. But because it is only Teams, you can't schedule meetings because there's no email integration. It really is not as effective as it needs to be functional. So even though they're giving it away free, I took it out of my presentations because it doesn't do you much good. If you can't schedule a meeting, it doesn't help you. And you couldn't invite anybody outside your organization, really made it useless in my eyes. Okay. I will, and I don't know how, but I will get those links for you. Whoops, we got one more chat here.
I think we've addressed those. You answered the Outlook calendar question and somebody who would like that video.
Yes, I will get an answer for the metadata removing question. Like I said, I've never been asked for that, so I will have to get that for you. That's not a problem. I just don't have that information handy. So it looks like Bruce is asking that. So if we can make sure, I'll try and make sure to remember to get back with Bruce and get that for him and everybody else.
Excellent, thank you.
No problem. Okay, any quick questions on Teams, using Teams to collaborate? You can see we have different ones. We actually have one for the executives. Oh, one other nice thing within Teams is it makes a place to do chatting. So if you do have, again, you can put a quick question into a Teams chat and send it out. So it is a great way to keep your team connected while you're doing different things, and it is secured within SharePoint and OneDrive. Okay. Let me go back here. I'm going to go through the rest of this really quick. We're running out of time. You had asked about the prices. Here are the different prices. These are actually Microsoft prices, but if you do buy through us instead of going directly to Microsoft, we can give you these prices on a monthly basis, where Microsoft requires you to sign a year contract. And where that really comes in handy is if you use interns or summer help or have an up and down, you can buy a license for a month, use it, and then at the end of the month, let us know and we take it out. So you might have like 3 people join for the summer that are interns. You want to give them emails so that you can control what they can do. They work for the summer. At the end of the summer, you tell us you don't need it. We take those licensing off your bill. So that's one of the advantages, but this is all the different Microsoft pricing. Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nope, that was my next question.
Okay, so I wanted to bring this up, and I just found this out. This is an example where I guess I really should read everything Microsoft puts out there. Microsoft is not liable to make sure that you have your information. Now, they'll tell you they'll do their best effort, but if they can't recover it, you're out of luck. And it is right, there's the link for it, because lawyers asked me for that. So they say that you need to have a third-party backup. So if you do have Office 365 and you don't have a third-party backup, we do offer one, and we're actually giving a link to get July free. It's $3.50 a license per month. So really quick, before we run out of time, there is an actual voice option, but you do have to have E1 licensing or higher to use it. We are actually using it. It's $23 a month per user, and it lets you integrate your Teams, your Office, everything into your voice. We do have an email security and encryption package for $5 a month if you don't want to buy the E20 or the Microsoft Premier Business, and that will let you do encryption. And then these are the two different backup and journaling options. The $3.50 will do a backup 3 times a day. It is unlimited retention, and for most of us, that's all we need. But if you do have a very, like for my government clients, we do have to have the legal journaling because they have to record every email all the time. Oh, wait, what's this? Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Missed those.
Carbonite is a great backup for your files. This is for Office 365. So you can use Carbonite to back up. The Office 365 package we offer does back up SharePoint, OneDrive, all of your email, all of your Teams. So it backs up all of that.
All right, and I don't know if everyone's seeing the chat questions, but you just answered that in response to using Carbonite as a backup. But we have another question of, I have 2 licenses, one for me and one for my secretary, but we use a joint NAS drive. Do I need 1 license for backup or 2?
This would be per Microsoft account. So you would need 2 licenses to back up the Microsoft's account. The NAS drive would be backing up your files. I will tell you one disadvantage. NAS stands for Network Attached Storage. One of the concerns that you'll have is by having your backup on site with your daily operations, that's not considered an acceptable level of backup. So you do need to have a cloud backup or show that you are able to take the backup to a third site location, preferably within 24 miles or further away from your office to meet the security standards that most would require. So you would need 2 licenses because it's per Microsoft license. And
Ken, I don't know if you have time to stand for a few more questions as folks have them, but I did want to ask you about, I know you offer a Wednesday, is it seminar or not seminar, but an ongoing event that people can choose to participate in. I think there may be a cost associated with that, but if folks wanted to get ongoing this kind of information from you, would that be an option?
Yes, we actually, we had stopped, we were doing free Teams training. We had just stopped it because we thought people were going back to work, but if there are people interested, I'd be more than willing to do another free Teams training. And like I said, I'll send the videos of those previous Teams training, but sometimes it's nice to get that live. So yes, if there's anyone that is interested in live Teams training, let us know. If we can get 5 to 10 people that are interested in signing up, I'll take you through using, a little bit more in depth on how to do file sharing, how to use Teams. We actually are in a Teams meeting. We talk about how to make sure that you can blur your background, why you'd want to do that. You can also change your background images. We go over all of that, how to kick people out of meetings.
Oh, that's good. So if somebody wanted that book, they should shoot you an email. Maybe you can talk about that book, or if they are interested in that Teams training, they should also shoot you an email?
Yes, yes. So here is, if you want to get that backup free for June, and again, I think you're going to be sending this out to everybody.
Yep, we will.
And then here's, if you have any questions, you can go here and go to contact. And also, let me actually, I don't think I have my email on here. I thought I did, but I made a mistake. And I want to take a quick second. This is actually from the department, the FTC, and it is small business security. It's worth having. They talk about how to do security. and we give these away to anyone that asks for it. So if you just send an email to info@ontechpartners.com and say, I want the small business cybersecurity booklet, we will, and then make sure you put in a mailing address, because I don't know how to send it to you if you don't. We'll mail those off to anybody that wants it, and I'll get that. I'll email Dawn, I'll email you that contact information, and then that way they can send it. Because I realized this morning, and I said, you know, this is probably a good thing to be sharing with people. We give them out in our live presentations, but as I was telling Dawn, I'm getting used to not doing a live presentation. I can't hand it out.
Well, excellent. Well, this is really helpful, Ken. If there's any other questions before we close, feel free to go ahead and type that in now. I think so far we've either answered all the questions or are going to get back to folks with an answer. But Ken, thank you so much. This was incredibly helpful, and I definitely have a lot of takeaways that we're going to be using right away. And maybe we can have you come back and do another presentation. This was great.
Yes, if there's anything, and I will find out about that removing metadata. That is not a normal, but there are ways actually in Office 365, now that I think about it, I could have talked about, but that gets a little more in depth. So I'll see if I can put together something to address that. And you were saying to remove all metadata from all files? Is that, did I understand that?
Or could it be before something is shared?
Let me go back to the chat.
Yeah, but said this metadata question is quite important. There are those of us in the audience who want to make 1000% sure that no one can see who has edited a given document. The editing history, what subdirectory the document was located in. We don't want someone to be able to revert to previous iterations or see hidden online changes. So maybe, Ken, we can talk about that offline, but that might be a good topic for I think that would, as Bruce mentioned, a lot of the folks who are here or who are small solo members would love to hear more from you about that.
Yes, I will find out about that and see as far as how we can secure that and get you an answer.
And I believe Katie, Katie or somebody else from the Bar Association will be sharing the activity code. So folks, you will be getting that after the presentation is over. So,
yes, that's right. I think that'll be coming from Katie or Dominica, but I'll make sure that you get that.
Excellent. Well, Ken, thank you. Thanks to everybody at the Bar Association for all of your help with these events that we've been able to put on. And if anyone has any questions for Ken, please do reach out to him. I think that's it for today.
Yep. Get another one.